All right, traders, welcome to today's recap. This is Christian from Tribeca Trade Group, and it is Wednesday, October 26th. What another wild day. I'll tell you, these are not dull days by any means right now in the market. So we will go through some of the price action here. Risk disclaimer in front of you. Everything that we're going through is for information purposes. Not giving out any advice or recommendations. Please make sure you read the full risk disclaimer right there. All right, so the major theme of the day that I have, and you could probably come up with a couple themes yourself too for this price action, but I think overall the indices, they've been on a very nice run and they've been short-term overbought, and they hit some resistance. So we can go over that. Clearly, just to start from where I left off in last night's video, we looked at the 50-day moving average. We looked at a 1 hour VPOC, and yeah, I mean, the market had some trouble with that. And for now, that's the first day we're hitting the 50-day moving average. And by the way, this is a pretty good thing too. I know it's tough to not be negative about this, but we did make this pretty nice move, getting out of the getting out of the the October highs that we hit earlier in the month. I mean, this is a pretty nice move to get up to the 50-day moving average. So yes, it to me, it's a bit logical that we've got so much overhead resistance. It's going to be a bumpy trip. So if you look at the 1 hour chart for S&P futures, this was the other thing that we talked about in yesterday's video. This is 3880, and as I said, it lined up very closely with that 50-day moving average. So yes, it's a decent rejection. You could see for the 1 hour chart, we really didn't break the trend, which is a good thing. But yeah, it's an ugly looking candle. So if you're looking at this chart and you're like, oh my God, we hit the 50-day moving average, and we're going to go back to the lows now. I don't know if that necessarily is going to happen. I think there's a number of things, a number of events that we're going to have further this week as well as next week with the Fed meeting that is really going to kind of, dictate what the risk taking is going to be in this market. But for now, we're in between the 50-day moving average, and we're still above the 5 and the 20. Could we come down here and revisit and retest this? We definitely could. That may be something that you may want to watch for adding a little bit more risk. And then also, I thought the NASDAQ was really telling on the day, and these were things that we went over, like literally in the first 2 hours of the day. So let me just bring that up if I can. Yeah, it was right at 1125. Here was the level of resistance that we were talking about, 11,000, right around 11,700. So we look at the NASDAQ futures on the 5-minute chart, you'll see exactly what I'm referring to. And boom, we hit the resistance. This was a great place to, kind of fade. But I did not do that. I wasn't expecting a full breakdown like this. So strong off the open, just kind of crazy that all of a sudden, we go full on straight up. Again, the levels really help using volume at price and the market webs indicator that we use. We do sell this to TTG members. We don't sell it to outside members, but I think you could see for the levels that we go over in every one of these videos, it does the job. And in terms of telling you, notice again, we completely fell apart, and just a lot of selling pressure from here. And what's crazy is there wasn't any particular news story or anything like that. There wasn't a big move in bonds or the dollar that dictated the move, but that's just sometimes how this has been working. And if you go back to Thursday's price action, right, very similar. To see this, we saw a trending day, but here was, I believe this was Thursday's price action. Same kind of thing going on here, a move to the so around the highs of the day, and then once we got to 11 o'clock, just a complete sell-off, and a move that took out the lows of the day. And if you look at this was actually a bigger move today, but again, it's just very interesting with what's going on with some of these earnings reports. So I know obviously the Microsoft, right, is getting the attention. It gets all the media attention, and it's a big company, right? There's no doubt about it. These are the biggest names. These are the biggest names in the indices. So yeah, I mean, they're going to push and pull around, the S&P 500 and certainly the Nasdaq. But I would say, silver lining to that is not every name, was bad on earnings. Like take, for example, Visa was up 4.6%. Now, again, this hit resistance. ENPH was, I was surprised. I had an earnings trade on for ENPH, but, the way that this was trading last night, this was a very pleasant surprise. I mean, this name was up 10% last night. So so it's not every name that's falling. And I do think, my viewpoint, I said it in Monday's video, I said it in Tuesday's video, I'm going to say it again really quickly, is I just don't think that these FANG stocks are, going to have they're going to lose the leadership, and they really haven't been the leaders for some time. This Meta is down to 113. Look at the whipsaw move. Taking out a VPOC to the upside. Imagine buying this thing at, seeing the headline number and buying this thing, in the 130s, and this thing is down to 113. That is a huge move. Again, always these whipsaw algo moves when a name reports earnings. But yeah, I mean, and this is a good case for, by the way, 117 was my price target on this name. We had talked about that, and I have a post. I actually just shared it with members. Now, granted, I played this a few times along the trip way to the downside, but I missed the last leg, and you could see it kind of just was hanging out back and forth over the last month. But yeah, it will go down, and it will take down this move. So again, it's a case too, and I really think that these are good things for members to learn, not members, but just traders to learn. People looking at where the stock used to trade and saying, oh, it's down, X amount this year. Where is the year to? Oh, it's down 61% this year. It's got to be a buy, right? That's not the case. And if you've traded through the year 2000 or 2008 or a few other situations too, where you've seen names that were at one point showing leadership in the market, and then something changes and they don't, they're not on sale down 61%, regardless of you look at the PE ratio 12, 13. The way that we were talking about looking at it before, about 20 minutes, a half hour before this name reported, is you have to think about where the stock is going to. What are the business? So, again, newer traders, and I'm not picking on anybody, but they look at this number and they say, oh, down 60%, this is a discount. It's not a discount. The reason why it's not a discount is because you have to think about where the company is going, right? What are their growth prospects of the future? And if it's declining, if their growth is declining and not growing, then often this is the case, is that the company just continues to sink in a downtrend, because the business has changed, and that business that they had, people were using Facebook, people were using Instagram. It's just not the same anymore. People, I think, I don't use Facebook. I've never used Facebook. I think I have I've signed up for it, but I don't use it. But I listen to what people say. And I was listening to, I think it was Dennis Dick from Benzinga talking about, how he was homesick or something, and he opened up Facebook, and there's just ads. You don't even see like comments from people anymore. It's just littered with advertisements. So again, I don't mean to dwell on this, but I think it's a really good lesson to learn. It's something that we've been talking about all year long. The only way that I've played this name is to the downside. I've tried to day trade, a couple of the FANG names here and there, but I really don't do much. I had a small earnings trade on for Google, didn't work, and that's fine. I don't mind taking a shot here and there, but this took out the lows for this year. So again, in my opinion, try to forget the name brand and how well accustomed you got to this name. Think about where the company is headed in the future. Is the revenue increasing, or are they more in a declining mode right now? Because I think if you go through the Google numbers from yesterday, a lot of their metrics are declining. you know, one by one. Even I think YouTube, from what I didn't listen to the call, and I didn't comb. I'm not an analyst. I didn't comb through the numbers. The price action tells me enough, but I'm curious enough half the time to kind of go through some of these numbers, and just to you know, just to get a you know, gaining some perspective. But when you see all of the numbers declining, you know, because it's a big business, that's not, again, you can't look and say, oh geez, the stock was trading at 145. Well, there's a reason why it was trading at 145. That's when the business was growing. All right, so I'll move on from that. A couple names that are up after hours. ServiceNow, up to 405. So I, you know, again, it's not all bad. You know, ServiceNow just has a impeccable earnings, you know, history. I did not take this trade. I usually sell a put spread for ServiceNow. I just thought that you know, given all of the earnings results that we've seen, maybe they would show a declining quarter as well. Their numbers were pretty good. I guess they weren't as bad as feared. The subscription revenue down a touch from their estimates. But also look at the EPS, third quarter EPS adjusted 196 versus 185. So again, not as bad as feared, and the name jumps. They just seem to know how they do it. There's something to this, right? I talk about this all the time. It's not so much, you know, important. It is when, you know, when you look at metrics and whether or not the company's growing, but this is the most important thing, is what the price does as well. Another one, and I don't think it's going to trade too much in the after hours, but Aspen Technologies, which has really been one of the best looking tech charts, had good numbers too. Again, it's just not a name that is that liquid, but their adjusted EPS, their numbers beat. 676 to 690. I mean, that's a pretty good, right? Estimate was 651. You know, I don't think they crushed every number, but still pretty decent numbers. So again, you know, it's going to be very interesting. We've talked about this all week long. We've talked about it actually all year long, that we would see new leadership. And if you look at what energy did today, right? Energy didn't have that move down. It was something that we were talking about today. You know, it did come off the highs, right? And it still finished up 1.3% versus XLK and what XLK did. And they're actually moved down. Interesting that XLK is up here a little bit. So, you know, I think Meta's not in XLK anymore. That's probably why. But CLAC is up a little bit. NVIDIA, which I'm not really sure why it's up, but it is up. They mentioned something about a reaction to Meta, which the capital expenditures, I guess. NVIDIA, Marvell jumped more than 3%. So interesting. So, you know, I'm not going through heavy into chart setups in today's video. Just kind of talking a little bit about the sentiment, and we could go through a couple other charts. Like, you know, I thought IWM, you know, still staying. It did get over the 50-day moving average. Again, not the best candle there, but we'll see if it can stay above the 50, right? And then of course the Dow, which horrific price action in Boeing today. But this is also above the 50-day moving average. So, you know, try to be objective with these things. I know you're going to see a million posts by people about the S&P getting rejected at the 50-day moving average. But and the S&P is important. It's the biggest index out there, but it's not everything. So make sure that you're looking at other things. Also, just keep in mind, we're going to have more big earnings reports that come out tomorrow. Apple, Amazon. We'll see if we get a full donut in terms of all the major big cap companies, but that remains to be seen for tomorrow. And then don't forget, on Friday we get inflation data. That's the PCE deflator, and then we get a Fed meeting next week. Right, the Fed's been in a quiet period this week, so that's why it's been a little bit less challenging with all those speeches and so forth. I'll just give you a quick look too at what bonds did today. Positive. All right, so I would not get super hooked into today's price action, given that bonds had a strong day. Also, look what UUP did. Again, I got a couple questions about these. People noticing that, hey, the market wasn't, tailed off, of course, in the afternoon. Meanwhile, the dollar went down and bonds went higher. I would just say be patient with this market, right? There's a lot of moving parts to this, and earnings is the #1 focus for this week. So I think that had something to do with it. All right, guys, that's it for today's video. Have a great night. TTG meetup at 6:30. So hopefully I'll be joining some of you guys for a nice cold beverage in a little bit. Thanks very much for watching, and have a great night, everybody.